If you're like me, you're always looking for your next read, and I've got a few great ones for you that may not have come out this year. They're going to be in science fiction and fantasy and kind of all these sort of adjacent spaces. In this video, we're going to break down 3 different categories of books. Ones that I'm going to be calling heavy reads, which are those things that are kind of intellectually challenging. The other one is going to be just books that are a lot of fun for whatever reason that may be. In the last category, and it may be my favorite, may not be, and I'm definitely feeling this vibe right now, is the please make me feel better because I'm losing my shit right now. And so without further ado, let's talk about books. Greetings, Cosmic Traveler. My name is J. Fitzpatrick Malden, and I am an author of character-driven hard science fiction and fantasy, most recently of the Foundry series. And in this video, like I said, we're going to go through and talk about some books that I've read this year that I think you guys should definitely check out. And so first up on this list, let's talk about The Chonkers. Ugh, those are the heavy reads. I'm pretty sure I may have broken my desk in the process. My camera's all messed up too here. So what would science fiction be without just a little bit of existential dread about making us think about things that honestly we shouldn't ever worry about and speculating about things that may or may not ever happen? And so of course this year I dove pretty deep into the Adrian Tchaikovsky lexicon of books because, well, I'm a hard science fiction writer. I love reading hard science fiction. And Adrian Tchaikovsky is probably one of the best of our time in that space. Of course, there's other great folks in that space, like we've got our Alistair Reynolds, we have Peter Hamilton, we have the James S.A. Corey books with The Expanse. You've got, of course, all the sci-fi classics in this. However, Tchaikovsky is definitely one of our contemporaries in that space. And so this year I want to go through the whole Children of Time series. This is also it is adjacent, is what they call a comp title to my Foundry universe, though I definitely think the Foundry has a little bit more of the adventure side than this does. And so I'm going to give a couple little spoiler alerts before I jump into this, because Children of Time has been out for a minute. It got a ton of different great awards for it, and it's totally merited. I've just finished the 3rd book in the series, which is called the Children of Memory. However, I'm going to say, in my humble opinion, that Children of Time, the 1st book in the series, is probably the best. So here's the basic setup. We have a society of highly advanced humans far in the future. They have started terraforming planets. We've started exploring out there. And some sort of political strife happens back home. A computer virus is sent out and it destroys all of our hardware, and basically humanity is kicked back into the Dark Age with a few very small exceptions. The surviving people from this end up cobbling together these arc ships, and they go out to try to find the planets that were being terraformed before this whole political strife happened. When they reach the planet, things aren't exactly what they seem. The 1st book in the series especially is so fascinating because it actually follows that of a terraformer who was terraforming a planet. She was just about to kick things off on this, was going to send some monkeys down to the planet to eventually get uplifted into a human-like species. Everything goes wrong. Things don't turn out as planned. And the virus that she created to be able to uplift and make these creatures smarter actually ends up in spiders. And so there are these spiders growing on the planet, ported spiders to be exact. They're kind of like a jumping spider. And those spiders end up becoming super intelligent and build their own culture. And so when the humans finally do arrive, they want to get onto the planet. She has got her spaceship up there defending these creatures she thinks are monkeys. And I say she, I'm talking about the terraformers, kind of still alive, kind of. Defending these things that she's created. She thinks they're monkeys. They're not. They're spiders, because you'll have to read the book. And there ends up being this huge conflict between the humans that are trying to colonize this planet because they don't want to die, and these spiders being defended by this super intelligent AI, and the spiders evolving. And so the book takes place over many hundreds of years. Lots of people go into cold reefer sleep, hypersleep, suspended animation, however you want to say that. And lots of hijinks happen in between. This book was a riotous adventure, in my opinion, and it gave me a lot of really interesting ideas about looking at alien life very differently. So highly, highly, highly recommend this book. The series does continue, and more hijinks continue with more terraforming accidents further on, some continuing characters, but this is kind of one of those weird books like Foundation where you don't really follow a character all the way through the entire series per se. You kind of follow a concept of a character. So these characters are sort of reborn through different people and different iterations. But of course, we get to the third book, and it has a lot to do with simulation theory and really messed up my head. And I still don't know how I feel about the ending. I just finished it yesterday. So 5 out of 5 would definitely recommend these, especially if you're looking for something mind-bending and twisting and give you a completely separate perspective and not including too much that's going on in our current reality. Now, I said that these were the heavy reads, and these are physically big books. I also read this year Exodus by Peter Hamilton, which is the book that goes along with the Exodus video game that's coming out. It was great. I listened to it on audio. It was like 35 hours long. That is a big chunker. Definitely recommend. Far future, crazy technology. Humans have gone post-human, and they're kind of different things, and so I'd recommend that one as well. But back on the Adrian Tchaikovsky bent, I did read a few other of his books this year. Two most notably, of course, I believe Shroud came out this year, and Shroud has to be probably one of the most existential and terrifying books that I have ever read. And so Shroud basically is surrounded around this idea of, it is not set within any of the other universes of Adrian Tchaikovsky, as far as I know. It's a standalone. And it is set around this idea of human expansion. And you've got this corporate entity, this corporate interest who is trying to extract resources from this planet. And they kind of figure out that there's life down there, but they're not really sure what that life is or how it works. And the planet's very dense. There's lots of atmosphere, and there's tons of electromagnetic radiation. When an accident happens on the ship, some of the crew members, a couple of the crew members end up getting trapped inside of this little safety pod thing that they've created, and they crash down on the planet, but there's no real surface on the planet, and the life on the planet is absolutely bat crap wild. And what I mean by that is, it is some sort of modular life forms that like reconnect themselves and like adapt based on their environment. And yeah, so you've got a couple people who don't really like each other very much, that are under the oppression of a corporate overlord, that are trapped inside of a pod on a planet with like hundreds of atmospheres worth of weight on top of them, and they are basically struggling to survive. It is a nail-biting journey through hell, to be quite honest. In that same bent, we have Alien Clay. I really enjoyed Alien Clay. However, this one in some ways hit a little close to home on some of the existential feelings we may have right now about where the world is going, around government, around all those kind of things. And so basically you have an authoritarian government that when scientists don't do the things that they agree with, they basically get stuck on a pod, and we don't have enough money to send you on a regular spaceship to get there, so we just kind of shoot you across the galaxy to another planet where maybe you'll wake up, maybe you'll die when you impact. That's kind of the basic idea. So they end up on this colony. It is one of the few planets that has life, and they are there to research what is going on this planet. There is an alien society that was there at some point, and the flora and fauna of the planet are incredibly hostile to humans, and it's about them surviving basically in this research prison camp. It is a really good story. However, if you are feeling dark or a little uncomfortable in life right now, I would probably buy this book because he's an awesome author, and then set it off to the side till you are in the right frame of mind. However, it does have an excellent ending, and I'm not going to say that it's one of those endings where you're like, oh my gosh, does life even have meaning anymore? Because let's be honest, some of the hard science fiction, some of the more philosophical side of things, they can kind of do it sometimes. So although I read some other in that space, that's enough of the heavy reads. Let's go on to something a little just more fun. First up on the fun list, if I didn't mention it, I would be absolutely out of place, and that would be, of course, Dungeon Crawler Carl. I've finally gotten to the end of Dungeon Crawler Carl. Such an amazing series. Listen to it on audio. My wife is currently reading the hardback copies of it and loving it. And Jeff Hayes is amazing. I've talked about it before on my channel. Those books are incredibly complicated to explain because they are both terrifying, fun, funny, heartwarming, disturbing. Like there's kind of all the spectrum of feelings happen in those books, and I think they're just beautiful and wonderful. And the hype is actually real, in my opinion, on that, especially if you are a gamer or you like RPGs. Of course, I got the pleasure of meeting Matt Dinneman earlier this year and get him to sign some of our copies of Dungeon Crawler Carl. But then in that same vein, because it was hosted by Eagle Eye Bookstore here in Atlanta, I got to meet Joe Abercrombie on his tour for The Devils. The Devils, guys, this book, if you've never read any Joe Abercrombie, he's a remarkable grimdark fantasy author who ends up somehow making you like the bastards of the world. And I'm not trying to be mean in this, but like he has a way of taking someone who is a complete monster and humanizing them in such a way that you either understand why they became a monster or you kind of sympathize with them a little bit. Like maybe there's that dark part of you that's just like, F it all, and like, here's where we are. So I'm letting this out through the form of a monster, but excellent book. It's about a band of misfits who, under the church in the book, are basically sent on an impossible mission to go take a princess from point A to point B in order to end a war. And let's just say things don't go as planned. There's a lot of political intrigue and interreligious intrigue that happens. And your group of monsters we've got a vampire, we have a werewolf, we have a necromancer. I mean, we have a magician. It doesn't like to be called anything but a magician. We have a priest, and we have a pirate, and we basically have a thief who is pretending to be a princess. All of them are horrible, awful people, and yet also not. They're selfish, they're self-interested, but most of them got to where they were because of the circumstances around them. Just really good villain hero stories, and so highly recommend this book. Lots of laugh out loud moments from literally page 1 on it, and just a great read all around. Now, I've got a while before I will get to the end of it, but me and my wife the other day were talking about how some books go by really fast and some books go by really slow, and I think that has to do with how intellectually challenging they are. So if they're a kind of a new idea or a foreign idea, it takes you a little longer to process it. And you may not be stealing those minutes in between, like when you're working or when you're traveling or whatever, to listen to a really heavy book. And so in the lighter, more fun category of this, I've been going through the Expeditionary Force books by Craig Allinson. These are super, super, super fun. Military science fiction, though, is one of those genres that can be a bit polarizing, though. What I mean by that is some authors like to use military science fiction as a means to, let's say just promote their particular political agenda. And I get it. You're a writer, you get to do what you want. I totally get it. What I appreciate about the Expeditionary Force books is they are military science fiction. To me, they give a lot of respect to people who have served in the military and who do serve in the military. But at the same time, they don't really get down into the like one side versus this side in our particular country and you're an idiot and that. Like everyone is coming together for a common goal, which is to save humanity from extinction. So the basic idea of the X-Force series is that aliens come to Earth. They end up subjugating us in a sort of soft deal. We become a client species to them. Humans are taken off planet to go subjugate another species, and things don't turn out as planned. The people we think are the good guys are not really the good guys. The guys we think are the bad guys are not really the bad guys, but they're also not the good guys. And basically humanity gets wrapped up in this huge conflict across the entire galaxy. While on that planet, Joe Bishop, the main character, ends up finding a shiny beer can on a shelf, which he later ends up calling Skippy. And Skippy is a super intelligent AI from an elder species or like a precursor species to all the other ones that currently exist in the galaxy. And because Joe is too dumb to understand some of the things that it says, it's allowed to wake up and help him. And so the two of them kind of form an alliance. They go on all these grand adventures to be able to save humanity and to be able to basically keep Earth secret from everyone else. I'm currently just up to book 5, so don't give me any spoilers in here in the comments. I will absolutely not read them, but all I'm gonna say is Skippy the Meh is still pretty skippy. So an asshole beer can AI in the that's helping to save humanity. Lots of ground pounding, lots of cool space combat and neat technology. And yeah, plenty of military and dad jokes in this to boot. Oh, and there's something about Barney in the first book. Like Barney the purple dinosaur. I will leave that up to you to be able to get into. So when it came to just pure fun books that I wouldn't necessarily say were light reads, I wouldn't say they were heavy reads, Dungeon Crawler Carl, the Expeditionary Force books, and of course The Devils, all of them 5 out of 5. Go check them out. And of course, if you like any of these books or any of these ideas or would like to talk about anything, then please smash that like or subscribe. I'll sip my coffee while I wait. I'm watching your mouse. I'm watching your thumb. Is it going to those buttons? It's really good coffee today. All right, to round it all off, we have our last category, which is what I'm dubbing the please make me feel better because, well, I'm losing my shit. And I'm not really losing my shit. However, the world is a crazy place right now, and sometimes we just need something really, really cozy. Speaking of cozy, if nobody remembers, the most popular video game during the COVID pandemic or during the lockdown period was Animal Crossing. And I think it's the same reason we're starting to see a lot of cozy books start to pop up and it become a more popular genre in all of this, because we're all kind of overwhelmed, and sometimes we just want to believe in things like community, making things better, not blowing things up. So, you know, your concepts of like Stardew Valley, like farming simulations, and then like Animal Crossing, like you're making friends and doing all these things. And then of course, fishing. Where would we be without fishing? So in the fishing category, I'm definitely going to recommend, and I thought this was the weirdest thing when I heard about it, but it has turned out to be so good. I'm going to recommend Heretical Fishing by Haylock Jobson. Now, Haylock Jobson, I'm sure that is a fake name. I have not looked it up, but he's an Aussie, and he wrote this really cool, I would say, cozy isekai lit RPG series. I believe he's still making more of them. I'm only up to book 3 on it. And these books revolve around this guy who ends up naming himself Fisher, who essentially, his father owned a really big company. He inherited the company. There were a lot of unethical practices happening, and he was disillusioned with life, and he decided that he would take up fishing to try to give himself something fun to do and really just kind of some purpose and be able to relax and get away from all the terrible things that people were saying about him and the company and the media and all of that. And so he's out fishing one day. He hooks a fish, he brings it in. All these people are taking pictures of him for social media. He's like, forget it. He grabs his fish. He goes to walk back to his car and hit by a bus. He's dead. Wakes up in another world. This is a very typical isekai kind of opening. And so he wakes up in another world, and this system message keeps talking to him and asks him to set his name. And of course, he names himself Fisher. And so Fisher starts trying to figure out this new world that he's in. He comes upon this village in a place called Tropica, and he discovers that fishing in this universe is considered heretical. That means it is against the normal order of things. And, you know, I mean, heresy is usually not looked upon very well. And so everybody thinks he's weird because he fishes. Everybody thinks he's bad. All these hijinks happen. And as he starts to fish, as he starts to level up and become better at the different things that he does, he starts to accidentally awaken other animals and other people. And then next thing you know, everybody's that has been in this world without magic or without gods are starting to become super powered, and animals are talking, and it's just a lot of fun. The story itself, though, really revolves around, I say that like fishing is a big part of it, and it absolutely is. I've probably learned more about fishing in this book than I've known my entire life. However, one of the things I love about this particular type of cozy story, and this goes very much like Legends and Lattes falls into this category. So that's Travis Baldry's book. The idea of person with a troubled past, they're ready to divest themselves of that old life and start over. They come to a new place where there are people who have needs, need help, and things need to change. And basically the unique skills they had from the life that they're leaving behind help them become better in this space now that they've grounded themselves in things like community and friendship and trust. And so these books usually talk a lot about food. They have a lot of light-hearted humor. They have a lot of misconnections and weird little situations that happen, kind of like you would see in like a rom-com where somebody says something dumb and they didn't mean it that way, but the other person takes it completely the wrong way. One example I can think of in that misconnection space is actually from Office Space, the movie Office Space, when he talks about, he hears that Lumbergh slept with the girl that he's interested in, Jennifer Aniston's character. And it's the wrong Lumbergh. So he gets mad over something that isn't even a problem because Lumbergh is the jerk boss that he works for at Initech. And he's like, well, I can't be with someone who would have slept with Lumbergh, although it's a completely different guy. And so Heretical Fishing has ended up being a really big surprise for me. It's just kind of one of those feel-good books with a lot of actual surprises and even still some action. So like there's still some kung fu kind of style action in it. There's still some fighting and people meditating and shooting Kamehameha waves and all of that. But yet we also have cute, lovable little crabs with an eye patch and like otters that shoot lightning and a tree that soaks up magic and gives them lemons and people making coffee in a coffee shop and eating croissants and so on and so on and so on. And so if you're looking for a cozy read, highly recommend that. It's so good. Now also this year, I feel like I haven't read anything this year, but maybe I have read more books, just maybe not as many regular books, is I kind of decided I was going to do a little bit of manga this year. And I've always been a sideways fan of anime, but for reasons most people know, there's some reasons why I've kind of held back and been like, yeah, because there's kind of some odd things about it. So I always wanted to get into manga. I've kind of liked graphic novels a little bit, but I've always wanted to get into manga. And so I was like, you know what can I get into and start with? And I'll tell you a kind of cozy one that I ended up picking up. And I say kind of cozy because it does still have high stakes, tons of adventure. Maybe this should go in the more just the fun category, is Spy Family. Spy Family has turned out to be so much fun. If you haven't had a chance to jump into this, I would. And like I said, it's manga. So if you've never done manga before, these are super quick reads. Oh, and of course I flipped it the wrong way. These are super quick reads. It probably takes me 20 minutes to go through every panel of the manga. And because of that, I have a lot of them, like Volume 1 and Volume 2 and Volume 3 and Volume 4 and Volume 5, 6, and 7, and 8, and 9, and 10. And I think I've got all the Spy Family except for some of the extra missions on this. And so, I'm just gonna say that if you're on the fence about getting into manga or anime because maybe it's a little weird, maybe it's a little over-sexualized, probably the most sexualized thing in this one would be Yor. And I mean, that's kind of, I wouldn't even worry about it that much. So I've really enjoyed these. The story is about three unlikely people that come together under this secret spy mission and form a fake family. And so Yor is an assassin, Lloyd is a spy, and then Anya, the child of this with the little pink hair, she is actually a psychic. And so none of them each know each other's secret, and all of them are dancing around them, except Anya, because she's psychic, knows their secrets. But a lot of hijinks. There's kind of an East versus West kind of Cold War situation going on in this, and just go pick it up. I think you'll enjoy it a lot. Okay, so this one may not be cozy, but I definitely consumed a lot of this one. This one's just wild. If you like Dungeon Crawler Carl, you might like Chainsaw Man as well. It's anime, it's manga, but it's kind of got that same vibe. kind of does everything. But it's definitely not cozy. And also, man, come on. One Punch Man? Seriously. If you haven't read One Punch Man, haven't watched the anime, so good. So what did you read this year? What kind of heavy reads did you have? What did you read just for fun? And what made you feel better because you're just absolutely losing it? I would love to know down in the comments. Thanks so much for sticking around. And until next time, safe journeys, Cosmic Traveler. We'll see you soon.